Kraken. 17th century Norway stories said ships mistook a moving back for land, and some sailors swore an island slid under them. A bishop wrote that this beast could pull a vessel beneath the waves, and later writers repeated, dragging whole ships and their crews into the ocean depths, and that line spread fast. Why would people believe that if they never had proof? Here's the part that makes the legend click. Deep-sea cameras have filmed Architeuthis ducks, the giant squid, and some grow longer than a bus. Its eyes can look like dinner plate eyes, and its tentacles can stretch many meters. Imagine a wooden ship, a storm, no lights, and a pale arm rising beside the hull. What would your brain call that? The Kraken myth starts looking like rare meetings with a deep animal people almost never saw. Quick flashes made the size grow in retellings, and fear did the rest. Keep that in mind because, another long creature pushed sea fear even further. Sea serpents. In 1848, officers on the British warship HMS Daedalus wrote about a sea serpent near them, about 18 meters long, moving with great rapidity. Some witnesses described humps rising and falling like train cars, a scary picture to keep to. Would you stay calm if you saw that shape cutting the water beside your ship? Many modern writers point to the oarfish as the best match, because it can grow to 11 meters or more and it looks like a living ribbon. The body stays thin and silver, it swims in a wave like a snake, and a bright red fin runs along its head and back. When an oarfish is sick or dying, it can drift near the surface, and storms and earthquakes sometimes follow, which helped Japan call it a doomsday fish. So, those humps may have been one long fish bending as it moved. If sea tales can come from real animals, what happens when tired sailors see a woman in the waves today? Mermaids. On January 9th, 1493, near today's Dominican Republic, Christopher Columbus wrote he saw 3 mermaids. He added, "They are not as beautiful as they are painted." And that blunt line tells you he saw something real, just not magical. Today, the best match is the manatee, a slow sea mammal with a round face and big dark eyes. From far away, a manatee lifting its head can look a bit human, and a curved tail slipping down can look like a woman diving. Why would sailors accept that idea so fast? Many crews were tired, low on fresh water, and stuck staring at waves for months. In rough light, your brain fills in hair and arms because it wants a story that feels warm and human. Paintings later made mermaids slim and perfect, yet the real animal stayed gentle and plain. Sea myths also formed in colder water, where whales used a trick that looked like an island-eating fish from the deep in real life. Hafgufa. In medieval Norse texts, the Hafgufa looked like an island that fooled sailors, and ships that came too close were said to vanish. One study says, opens its mouth so fish can rush in, and then it snaps shut, which sounds impossible at first. The twist came in 2011 when scientists filmed humpback whales and bride's whales doing a move that feels almost the same. A whale can hang in the water, holding its mouth open like a dark cave, and small fish crowd inside because it looks safe. Then the jaws close, and the meal is done in one clean bite. Researchers call this trap feeding or tread water feeding, and it has been recorded in more than one ocean. So, an island monster story matches a real feeding trick that science only confirmed this century, and your hands grip the wheel. After that, Greek sailors' warning about 2 killers in one narrow strait feels far less like a fairy tale when you picture that water twisting. Scylla and Charybdis. Greek writers placed Scylla and Charybdis on opposite sides of the Strait of Messina, between Italy and Sicily, and the danger sounded like a bad joke with teeth. Scylla became a rock that smashed ships, while Charybdis became a whirlpool that swallowed them 3 times a day. If you had to choose a path, how would you even pick? Now put yourself on a wooden ship with no engine power, no radar, and no storm forecast. Modern charts show the strait has strong currents and shifting whirlpools, especially for small boats in bad weather. One wrong angle and the sea can grab the hull, push it toward rocks, then spin it toward deeper water. That is why the two monsters story lasted. Because it turns a real navigation trap into faces you can fear. Even after you clear that gap, the open ocean has a surprise, captains reported for years, until sensors finally caught it. One day, a single wave rose higher than anything around it. Rogue waves. On January 1st, 1995, sensors on the Draupner platform in the North Sea measured a single wave at 25.6 meters high. The sea around it was much smaller, so the reading shocked everyone. Before that, captains who wrote about huge walls of water got called liars, because the logs sounded like ghost stories. Oceanographers now use the term rogue wave for a wave more than twice the height of the surrounding sea, and one summary says these waves were once lacking hard evidence, yet they are now proven to exist. How does a wave like that even appear? It can rise fast, hit with enormous force, and vanish into normal seas again, which makes it hard to catch without sensors. To a 19th century crew, a sudden black wall, smashing windows and ripping off masts would feel like an invisible beast. If the ocean can do that, imagine what people will believe today, in a long, dark, quiet lake, where one ripple can look like a neck. Loch Ness Monster. Since the 1930s, people around Loch Ness have reported a long-necked creature with a humped back sliding through dark water. The loch is long and deep, so a brief shape can sink fast, and witnesses still ask what they just saw. Photos came and went, and the famous 1934 photograph drove the legend for decades. Later, it was exposed as a hoax made with a toy submarine, yet the lake kept its mystery because the surface can hide movement with one small ripple. In 2019, a team used environmental DNA from water samples to check what lives there. They found traces from more than 3,000 species, yet they reported no evidence of monsters. One idea stayed on the table because eel DNA showed up often, so the monster could be a giant eel. That leaves Nessie as a mix of waves, logs, seals, and a big eel people rarely see. Off the coast of Chile, one whale fought back so hard that crews whispered for years. Mocha Dick. Mocha Dick was active from about 1810 to 1838 near Mocha Island, and crews described him as an albino, or near-white, sperm whale. One writer called him one of the largest and most powerful sperm whales of 19th century lore. And that label stuck because people kept losing fights with him. Reports say he destroyed more than 20 boats, and he survived harpoons from many more. Imagine sitting in a small wooden whaleboat, watching a pale giant roll toward you with old scars and barnacles, and knowing your tools already failed on him before. To those crews, he felt like a thinking enemy. Because he did not just run, he hit back. Over time, the story of this whale helped inspire Herman Melville's Moby Dick. And that book pushed whale monster tales into more places, like a loop that feeds itself. This monster was a real animal fighting for its life. And once people accept that, a strange catch near Denmark can feel possible to you in old drawings too. Sea monk. In 1546, fishermen near Denmark pulled up a creature people said looked like a monk in a fish body. The sea monk was drawn and copied in books across Europe, with a hood-shaped head and fins that seemed like sleeves. Would you trust your eyes after that catch? Debate lasted for many centuries. Some called it a hoax, while others guessed squid, seal, or a strange walrus because the drawings felt half human and half sea life. Early sketches can twist what a body looks like, so one odd angle can become a robe. Modern zoologist Charles Paxton rechecked the old details and the local habitat, and he concluded that angel shark was the most likely answer. Angel sharks are flat with wide fins, and that shape can resemble clothing when it lies near the bottom. So a shark may have turned into a holy monster on paper, and Japan had a ball-headed sea figure that scared crews at night when the water turned black suddenly. Umibozu. One summary says Umibozu appears at night, and a calm sea would suddenly surge and a giant black head surfaces. That picture can freeze a crew because it feels like a face rising higher than the mast. In Japanese folklore, Umibozu is a sea spirit with a round shaved head like a monk. The story says the water can flip from smooth to violent in moments, and the figure might smash the ship or ask for a bucket so it can drown the crew. What would you hand over when your boat is already sinking? Modern writers link these tales to sudden storms, squalls, or even rogue waves off Japan's coasts. In bad weather, a tall black wave seen from a small boat can look like a living wall, and the mind adds a head so fear has a shape. So, Umibozu may mix grief for drowned sailors with real wave events that strike fast. Across the ocean, Massachusetts witnesses claimed a long thing in harbor, Gloucester Sea and Serpent. In 1817, people in Gloucester, Massachusetts sent letters because something long moved through the harbor of Cape Ann. One witness wrote they saw a creature denominated a sea serpent in the harbor of Cape Ann, and another said, "It appeared so strange and wonderful. What to think of this formidable visitor?" Would you sleep well after writing that? The story spread fast, and newspapers, ministers, and early scientists came out to watch. Reports described a snake-like head and many humps along the back, sliding under the surface as if it had joints. Later, some people suggested a line of migrating whales or seals moving in a curve, because that can look like a chain of humps from a distance. Others pointed to large sharks, or the oarfish again, since deep-sea animals can wash up and confuse everyone. So the great American sea serpent may be real animals, plus excited minds in a science age. Yet cliffs in Europe held bones of sea monsters long before newspapers ever printed. Sea dragons. From Germany, a fossil dated to about 183 million years ago showed a 10-foot sea reptile with a long neck, and the report called it a Jurassic sea monster. That name sounds wild, yet the bones sit in the rock. Long before dinosaurs were common knowledge, people pulled strange skeletons from cliffs and called them monsters, because no one had a label. Today, many of those finds are known as plesiosaurs and other marine reptiles that lived in the sea while dinosaurs walked on land. In Victorian England, collectors nicknamed some of these fossils sea dragons, and the phrase spread because the shapes looked like a story made solid. Later, artists drew the Loch Ness Monster with a long neck and flippers, and that look matched the fossil outline people already trusted. Plesiosaurs lived in oceans worldwide, hunted fish, and left bones that fit the monster picture. So the beast existed millions of years before sailors drew maps, and that gap keeps the sea feeling secret. Crazy how real animals and fear can blend into legends, right? Tell me which creature shook you most in the comments, and tap the next video on screen now.